Sorry about that. It allows us to attract and maintain business, bring visitors, and access medical services. Unfortunately, airports like ours have been losing service as airlines across the industry struggle with an acute lack of pilots, particularly captains. We are the canary in the coal mine. SkyWest Charter, or SWC, is a Part 135 air carrier that has submitted an application to the DOT requesting the ability to provide scheduled service in communities like ours. They represent an ideal opportunity for our region to maintain the twin engine jet service we need with an especially safety oriented operator. SkyWest Charters has committed to 2 ATP pilots, those holding 1,500 hours, in their flight decks, as well as multiple additional safety programs and full TSA screening, all of which aren't requirements for Part 135 or public charter. SkyWest Charter applied for community authority with the DOT nearly a year ago, yet the DOT has not approved its application. Meanwhile, other community carriers operate the same type of service every day with similar aircraft, using airports in various parts of the country, but under a lesser safety standard than SkyWest Charter. Recently, we have heard bizarre and blatantly false claims about SkyWest Charter and special interest groups in Washington, D.C. Based on these comments, it's clear that ALPA doesn't care about small community service. They know that 2 pilots and 2 jet engines are always safer than a single pilot and 1 propeller operation. But admitting that truth would give up too much valuable leverage. SkyWest Charter is a small commuter airline that is attempting to enter a market by following DOT and FAA regulation and will address a critical need. And ALPA is attempting to block that entry solely to preserve the pilot shortage and its own bargaining power. SWC SkyWest Charter represents the best opportunity to maintain the level of service our airport requires and deserves, but can only do so if the DOT will allow it. Put simply, the lack of movement on SkyWest Charter's application feels like the DOT is indifferent or doesn't care about small communities across the US. We are pleading with the DOT to take action and allow SWC to serve the airports in our region.
Okay, Corey, thank you. And also good morning to everyone. My name is Rhonda Chambers. I am the director of the Fort Dodge Regional Airport in Fort Dodge, Iowa. So a little bit of history. I mean, prior to SkyWest's arrival in our community in 2021, we had to accept small, unreliable propeller plane operators. And these aircraft were not able to fly high enough to avoid storms and weather. And the small aircraft also had weight distribution limits in which all the passengers had to physically get on a scale and be weighed when they checked in for their flight, along with all their luggage. So, and if the weight exceeded the aircraft limits, it would require passengers to be bumped off the flight and some luggage. So when SkyWest began flying in Fort Dodge, they stabilized our air service during a period of economic uncertainty after COVID and caused significant passenger growth. However, the worsening pilot shortage that we've all seen has affected our airport, meaning our service has been reduced and our flights are now shared with Mason City. So we're a tag city instead of our own flights. And that's due to this pilot shortage. And so we know that SWC, SkyWest Charter, provides an ideal opportunity to maintain essential air service in our community for the foreseeable future. And we will continue to have stable air service to and from our region. So the commuter air authorization that SkyWest Charter is trying to gain has been granted to several carriers by the DOT. It's been granted before, but there has been no applicant has been as highly qualified or offered safety standards like SWC is going to do. It simply doesn't make sense that special interest groups in Washington, D.C. are using their influence to delay the certification process for nearly a year now. These same groups did not object to any of the regulations governing Part 135 or to the other carriers that have previously been granted commuter air authorization. There's been no objections to any of those other carriers' applications. So we welcomed SWC's application and the opportunity it gives us to maintain our connection to the global air network with high quality and reliable air service. And we would not advocate for SWC service if we had any doubts as to the safety of how they're going to operate. So our community's air service has been needlessly held in limbo for well over a year now, and we have been asking the DOT to approve SWC's application.
Good morning, Dave Sims, the airport manager, Mason City Municipal Airport, Mason City, Iowa. And the Mason City community and many of the others around the country are struggling to maintain our connections to the world through safe and reliable airline service. While our community does benefit from the Essential Air Service program, the number of quality providers for EAS service continues to drop just due to the pressures from the pilot shortage. For the last several years, SkyWest has come in and been providing safe and quality airline service to communities. However, they're now being limited due to the pilot shortage. We know that a highly qualified operator like SkyWest Charter will be able to provide our community with exceptional air service. This commuter air authorization they're seeking is nothing new. It has been granted to several carriers by the FAA, but no applicant is as highly qualified and has the safety standards like SkyWest Charter does. Its management team has over 100 years of aviation management experience. They'll staff the flights with dual captains who exceed Part 135 qualification standards by hundreds and even thousands of hours as they initiate service. We're concerned that SkyWest Charter's application has been allowed to languish at the DOT for over a year. We understand their applications being contested by various groups who continue making false claims about the safety and security of SkyWest Charter. However, SkyWest Charter has committed to meeting and exceeding all existing FAA and TSA regulations, including having 2 pilots who have 1,500 hours or more. There's no regulatory reason that SkyWest Charter's authorization should be withheld. We welcome SkyWest Charter's application, and we're asking the Department of Transportation to expedite their certification, which will help keep our region connected to the global air network with high quality air service.
SkyWest began flying in Liberal in 2018, and like others have mentioned,
Hey, Brian, you might let everybody know who you are and where you're with. Yeah.
This is Brian Formal with City Liberal Airport Manager. Been in Liberal for a while. Yeah, like I said, they began flying here in Liberal in 2018. They've stabilized our air service. It's really helped our numbers with SkyWest being consistent and not canceling a lot of flights. That's why we look forward to the opportunities that SkyWest Charter can provide for our community. They've helped our community grow, and they've helped actually the region grow because we go clear down into Texas. They would be the 135 carrier that continues to maintain jet service at our airport, and they operate safely and reliably. The commuter air authorization has been granted to several carriers by the DOT, like others have said, but no other applicant has been as highly qualified or offered safety standards like SkyWest Charter. They have robust training programs and have committed to both pilots holding ATP licenses, which means that they're meeting the 1,500-hour requirements. They utilize the TSA screening process, which is actually pretty quick through Liberal. And it helps that we all talk together out at the airport. So no reason that special interest groups should be allowed to delay the DOT in approving their application. Our community service, air service has been needlessly held in limbo for over a year now, and we welcome SkyWest Charter application and ask the DOT to approve it. So that way we can maintain our numbers and access to certain air service.
Thank you, Brian. This is Jamie Salter. I am the director of Hays Regional Airport of Hays, Kansas. Reliable and safe air transportation is critical to the local Hays economy for a variety of reasons, including to attract visitors and businesses. Additionally, regular air service is often needed to allow residents of remote communities to access necessary medical services. Unfortunately, we've all seen airports losing service as carriers struggle with an acute lack of pilots, particularly captains. SWC represents the best opportunity to maintain the level of service our airport requires and deserves, but we can only do so if DOT will allow SWC to do so. There are always some who want to protect the status quo and will attempt to do so at any cost, including spreading blatantly false and misleading claims. Indeed, the world's largest and most influential pilots union has opposed SWC's application on the misinformed and flawed premise of safety. Yet SWC has recently made it clear that they will use pilots who hold FAA, airline transport pilot, or ATP licenses in both seats of the flight deck, meaning all pilots will have over 1,500 hours of flight time. This is a commitment no other operator with DOT commuter authority has made. SWC has also made clear that all flights operating under Part 380 authority will use traditional TSA security checkpoints and sterile areas of airport terminals. These commitments make clear that ALPA has no legitimate basis for opposition to SWC. SWC applied for commuter authority nearly a year ago, yet the department has yet to approve its application. This is particularly frustrating since other commuter carriers are operating the same type of service with similar aircraft as proposed by SWC, using airports in various parts of the country, but under a lesser safety standard than SWC will apply. It is essential that SWC's commuter air carrier application be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. I'm Tim Rogers, the Executive Director for the Salina Airport Authority, Salina Regional Airport, Salina, Kansas. The group this morning, my colleagues in Kansas and Iowa have made excellent points and have really made, I think, everybody on the call aware that, SkyWest is a premier air carrier in this country. SkyWest has been a significant provider of essential air service in this country and nationwide for years. And they've done it in an excellent, safe manner. They've connected communities to the world. I think through the hub and connections and partnerships they have with air carriers like United and Delta Airlines, they have changed profoundly the economic health and quality of life of the small rural communities that they serve. They have provided excellent service over the years. The pilot shortage is real. It has been a part of our aviation industry since 2015, 2017. It's well documented that the pilot shortage has been with us for a while. It was compounded and became even more of a situation due to early retirements and pilots leaving the workforce during a pandemic. But I will point out that the pilot shortage was not of SkyWest or any air carrier's creation. It is in part due to regulations that have been adopted by Congress that have been onerous on SkyWest and other air carriers, but especially on the smaller regional air carriers. SkyWest has been a champion of essential air service and the essential air service program, and has brought to the communities and to the US DOT an option on how to continue regional jet service to our communities. That proposal and that submittal to USDOT, in my opinion, has just fallen on deaf ears and has been opposed by the entities and the process that's been described already. It's just not the communities, Kansas and Iowa, that are on this call that are impacted by the lack of action by the USDOT. The EAS program serves 70 other communities other than the Kansas, Iowa communities on here, involving over 37 other states, in addition to Kansas and Iowa. This is a national issue, and SkyWest Charter provides a national solution or option to continue the EAS program at the level that it has been, and SkyWest Charter has been proposing to continue on. What has occurred is that the USDOT has received an application that has been provided and submitted by SkyWest Airlines, SkyWest Charter in good faith. It meets all the qualifications. If you read the docket, if you read the application, it exceeds any other Part 135 operator who's submitted for a commuter authority. It exceeds the fitness criteria that DOT is to use to determine air carrier fit to perform. Most recently, SkyWest has issued, the clarifications and as to flight crew and qualifications of the pilots on the flight deck, exceptional, and it's been well documented, spoken here. Those qualifications are just unlike any other Part 135 operator with commuter authority. So what has occurred is, for other reasons, I believe this application's been delayed, and I believe it is time for the Secretary to take action to announce a decision that I believe that the USDOT has arrived at. And I don't believe they can arrive at any other decision that the SkyWest Charter application is acceptable, that SkyWest Charter is fit and is able to provide the service as a Part 135 commuter with that authority. What is missing is the process, the due course, the normal course of business. And I would, and I know the Secretary of Transportation has been urged to go ahead and publish and post what's called a show cause order that will allow, in a formal process and instead of an ad hoc process, public comment. But let's see the decision by the USDOT. There are communities and citizens in those communities across 39 states that are waiting for that decision. There are issues related to economic development, quality of life in each of the 30 of the 70 plus communities that are awaiting for this decision and the direction that that SkyWest Charter can go. I think as a group, we unanimously support the SkyWest Charter application for commuter authority and the start of operations of SkyWest Charter in our communities. And the message to the Secretary is announce the decision so we can know how we're going to be, how things are going to progress and the direction we're going to go with essential air service in our communities. And I'll turn it over to Wade Steele, Chief Operating Officer for SkyWest.
Thanks, Tim. As Tim said, my name is Wade Steele. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at SkyWest Inc. We appreciate everyone joining the call today. SkyWest Charter's purpose is to provide safe, reliable connectivity for small communities that are unable to maintain access via Part 121 carriers because of the ongoing industry-wide captain shortage. Having the Department of Transportation approve our commuter authority authorization is crucial to ensure underserved communities like those on this call are able to enjoy safe, reliable air transportation. But SkyWest Charter can help solve this. SkyWest Charter can help solve this problem only if the DOT applies the regulations as it has with many others. SkyWest Charter safety programs far exceed Part 135 requirements. We plan to launch operations with dual captains on our flight deck and are committed to using pilots with an ATP license And yes, that means those with 1,500 hours in both seats. This is a commitment that no other Part 135 carrier has made. Additionally, SWC will utilize active flight dispatching, use traditional TSA security checkpoints, Part 117 rest rules, safety management systems, and advanced qualification programs. With these programs, SkyWest Charter has more layers of safety than any other in the Part 135 operations. We have waited nearly a year for the DOT to approve our application for commuter authority, which would enable us to provide scheduled service to these small and underserved airports. There is nothing new in this application, and others are regularly exercising this authority with lesser standards and without opposition. We are simply seeking fairness in approving a clearly fit operator so SWC can provide safe, reliable service as the industry works through the ongoing captain shortage.
Okay, looks like that will conclude our press conference here. As always, we encourage you, if you have more questions, reach out to your local airports, reach out to the airports listed that have talked today, speak with them, and they should be able to answer any of your questions. Thank you all for participating in today's press conference, virtual press conference.
Thank you all for attending today. We appreciate it.